Late to the meeting, everybody. I don't know what happened there, but I was hosting a little party of my own somewhere in the virtual world. So tonight it's my pleasure to welcome Carolyn Farmer of the Victims and Citizen Services of the NC Department of Justice. She's going to share with us some information about identity theft, financial exploitation, and other public policy initiatives on behalf of NC Attorney General Roy Cooper. So a little bit of information about Carolyn. She's a JD Victims, as I said, Victims and Citizen Services, North Carolina Department of Justice in Raleigh. And Ms. Farmer is a native of Raleigh, North Carolina. She received her undergraduate and law degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And she worked for several years in Governor Hunt's administration as an agency liaison and director of highway beautification. Prior to joining Attorney General Roy Cooper's staff in 2003, she was in private practice. Ms. Farmer oversees the Attorney General's statewide efforts on identity theft, financial exploitation of older adults, internet safety for children, and other public policy initiatives on behalf of General Cooper. She is on the Identity Theft Task Force for the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Her father is retired Superior Court Judge Bob Farmer, current chair of the NC Ethics Commission. Thank you, and welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is really fun for me because, you know, state government, we really don't get this opportunity to do online chatting and video meetings. So this is really exciting for me. I know GoToMeeting, is that what you said you used to use? Mm-hmm. Now, I've never used that either, but it's right down the road. So I'm utterly curious just to hear more about it. But right now I wanted to talk about identity theft and scams and really sort of prevention. That's really that's what I talk about compared to most people. What I want you to do is think about identity theft and scams. They're all after money. So if you narrow your focus to think about your access to money right now, like your credit card, your debit card, your checking account, cell phone, they can all use those and charge them to, make one aspect of this. The other is when they really are going after things you can control. So existing, you know what those are, you're monitoring them, you get monthly statements, or you're looking online. So for existing, you're really watching over it. The other side is when somebody gets a social and opens up that new credit, and you have to monitor that with the credit reports. So I know most of you will already know how to get your credit report, but I want to make sure that you monitor it on a regular basis. And I will tell you, when you're talking to people like your parents and you tell them about checking their credit report, what I find is that older adults especially are not willing to give up their Social Security number to the annual credit report to get their credit report. They don't realize that the credit bureaus already have their Social Security number, so they tend to be very tentative about giving it. And so I just want to make sure that y'all understand that that's an issue. The other thing I will tell you is that I want to make sure people know about the security freeze. Does anybody here have a security freeze that's on the group? Well, if you do, let me know. But really, it is a smart thing if you have given out your Social Security number to a lot of different places. If you are divorced, if you have been a victim of identity theft, then I would highly recommend a security freeze. Because what it does is for free, it allows you to lock off access to your credit report so that even if a thief steals your social somewhere and goes and applies for a new credit card in your name, that thief is going to be stopped from getting a new credit card in your name because you already have a security freeze on your credit report. So for a lot of us, it's something you can do in advance to stop somebody from getting new credit cards in your name. And then when you need new credit, you'll just call the numbers, put in the PIN numbers to the credit bureaus, and then you'll have access to new credit within 15 minutes under North Carolina law. So this in every state. Is free in North Carolina, not free in the state. As part of that, there's a new portion that just opened up in January for kids, and that's not free. It's $5 per credit bureau. But basically what we're trying to do is get people to open up and realize that their children have Social Security numbers, and that those Social Security numbers need to be locked down so that a thief isn't using a child's credit report, their Social Security number for 18 years before they notice. So that's part of the new initiative. All of this can be available at www.ncdoj.gov, and I guess I'll type that into the chat room, right? So that is our website, and if you go there and type in the search engine free security freeze, it'll show up the information that I'm talking about. Now, identity theft has changed a lot in the last 2 years. We've had an increase in online causes for identity theft, so I want to make sure I cover those. Passwords, Wi-Fi, and links and attachments and emails. For the passwords, that's pretty easy. Most of us have jobs where we're told that we have to have at least 8 characters, a capital letter, a number, and an asterisk. That's the minimum. And I will tell you that the recommendations changed in February to go to 10, and then there's another place that's recommending 12. So 12 characters long. And what I want to make sure is that you don't just write them down on a sticky note and stick them on your monitor. I want you to find a way that you can keep track of them. Use a manager, an online management, an app. I would consider writing down clues for what the password is rather than the actual password. So if you always use your cat's name, then write down cat's name, not the name of your cat that you're using as the password. If you can use a longer password, like a phrase, put it all together, no spaces in between, and put random characters, like change all the T's to pluses and the K's to threes, or create a little system like that so you have substitutions so that Webster's dictionary, when a thief is using it to hack in, isn't able to get your password. So I want you to think about, most importantly, is making sure that the people around you, your family members, your neighbors, coworkers, make sure they're not using the same passwords for email and social media, and then that there's a completely different level of passwords for financial and insurance and retirement and things at that higher level. Because what we're finding is they're getting in at the social media level, gaining access, and then they're working their way up. So I want to make sure that people know to have, ideally, I would love for you to have a different password for everything. If you're not going to have a different password for everything, at least make sure that there's tiers so that you have the strongest passwords with work and financial and so forth. Now I'm going to quickly read you the top 25 passwords in the nation because they're funny, and to make sure that you are not using these passwords. The number 1 password in the nation now is 123456. Password is number 2. It used to be number 1 for years and years, but it's now number 2. Then we have 12345678. QWERTY, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Football, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Baseball, welcome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. ABC, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. The next thing I can tell you is to use the number 1 on the keyboard and go down, and then 2 on the keyboard and go down. It's the easiest way to explain it. Then there's dragon, master, monkey, and then my personal favorite, as everyone knows, let me in. I think that's a great password. Then we have login, princess, and then the whole second line, QWERTY with the remainder of the keys on that line. Solo, password where the O has been changed to a 0. Then we have Star Wars as number 25. Now, I will tell you that last year we had Batman and we had Superman on there, and the year before that we had Jesus on there. So these passwords change. There's always the list of consecutive numbers. Let me in keeps being on there. So for some reason, a lot of these have been pretty stable. Again, you're on an online Rotary Club. So clearly you have an interest and some knowledge about being online. But I want you to think about people, like my sister-in-law owns a hair salon. So she doesn't have an IT department. There's nowhere but me that tells her about these changes. Make sure you're passing this information on to people that you know, your family members and others that don't know about what good passwords are and what they need to do. Because it's becoming a critical thing. Most of the security breaches are coming from those passwords. Now, I'll tell you that Wi-Fi has also been a problem. And what I really want is when you're going places, it's like verifying that you're logging into the correct Wi-Fi. What we found is there was an article in the paper, so I can talk about this one. In Starbucks in Cary, North Carolina, a personal guest or Starbucks public outside of the Starbucks. So therefore, they were people were logging in. It was right around Christmas time. People were logging in through the fake Wi-Fi that was being offered by this person. So he was grabbing their information as he went instead of people logging into the correct one offered by Starbucks. So it's worth that couple seconds extra to look for a sign to ask somebody, an employee, what the correct Wi-Fi is. Now, the third most common thing we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot with businesses as well as nonprofits, is links and attachments in emails. And this goes in two different ways. Usually it's from the boss, and it could be your immediate boss or it could be a high-level boss. And it's going to say something like, hey, I need you to check this out immediately, and it'll be a link or a PDF in the email. And by clicking on it, you're actually downloading malware. And it's most commonly it's ransomware. And so then the networks gets taken over, and somebody at the business is going to have to pay ransomware in order to get back the information that's been encrypted. So we're seeing that a lot. We're also seeing where an email is coming from the boss and going to whoever is in charge of writing checks, the bill payer. And we're seeing it with nonprofits, especially churches right now. And so the senior pastor is sending it to the person who pays bills and saying, I need you to wire money to this account immediately. It's a confidential matter. And because it's a church, no one's stopping to ask questions. No one's going through the due diligence that I hope would happen at a business. And so that check, the money is being sent. And so this we've seen it in businesses for a while, but now we're seeing it in nonprofits. And so I want to make sure people are aware of that, because depending upon where you work and what you do, there's someone there's some system, there's a link. And what they do is they either tap into the boss's email or they go and spoof the email so it looks like it's from the boss. So just be aware of that. No links, no attachments in emails unless you're expecting it. For example, today I clicked on the link from Eve because she sent me the link to Zoom. Now, I was expecting it. I knew that this was coming, so I clicked on it. But a lot of times we're getting stuff all the time. I got an email from my sister-in-law that said, hey, check out my recent vacation photos, which is something a sister-in-law would send. But because I do what I do, I questioned it and I asked her separately, hey, I couldn't check out your vacation photos. What vacation are they from? And she said, what are you talking about? So somebody had taken over her account and sent out a link about vacation photos. And that's not what this is about. I want you to look for evidence. This would just said, check out my vacation photos. There wasn't anything that talked about my nephew. There was nothing about where the vacation was or details like, hey, he caught this great big fish. You need to see the picture. So there were a lot of things missing from the personal aspect. Think about e-bites, e-cards. Think about, look for evidence that is truly from the people that you think it is. I would ask you to also think about unsubscribes I don't know about y'all, but even at the Attorney General's office, Roy Cooper's office, we're actually getting a lot more mail that looks like it's from Target and Old Navy and various stores starting to send from me. And if I click on it and hit the unsubscribe, there's a problem because that's a link. I didn't originally subscribe to these things. So how do I know it's actually a newsletter or an advertisement from those places? I don't. If I want to get off, if I really think I'm on that list, I can go directly to Target or directly to Old Navy and look for the unsubscribe directly on the website. That's a much safer way to do things. The other aspect of being online that we're seeing a great deal of problem with is online dating. And I will say, based upon the numbers of complaints that we're getting, it is clear that online dating is a problem. And 65 and older is a group that they're not talking to people about the fact that they're online dating. They're not as familiar with scams online and so forth, and so they're ending up falling victim a great deal. We've also seen where they're being wooed from Facebook. So someone sends a friend request. Well, they've got all this information about their likes and their dislikes, so it's pretty easy to say, you know, to pretend to be their perfect mate. And so this is where it gets frustrating. We've had in Johnston County, there was a woman who met a guy on Facebook, and said he was from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and he said he was in Pennsylvania at the time doing some work. His bank account got locked up, and she sent him 26 different wire transfers totaling $44,000. She has never even met this man. There was an older woman in Charlotte who she sent them $1,000. So this is happening all over the state. It's happening at all ages, but they're particularly interested in those people who are over the age of 65. Now, I would not be complete unless I talked a little bit about the other types of scams that we're seeing at the office. Phone scams, for example. We're getting a lot of complaints about the IRS Treasury Department call. And if any of you have gotten this, you know that the Treasury Department does not call. They don't, that's not what they do. But what's interesting, if you think about most of the scam calls you get these calls, and when you're if you don't answer them, just don't answer them. They don't leave a message for the most part. But for the IRS Treasury one, they actually leave a message and a callback number, which is why this has been so successful compared to most of the scams out there, is because they leave that callback number. And there's paranoia. I don't know about y'all, but you know, when you originally started paying for your taxes, you went to your blue postal bin and you did that double check thing to make sure it went in. And so there was no, you know, receipt that came out back before you actually did it online. And so for a lot of people, that paranoia about the IRS has been bred in there. And I see that Kevin posted a link about the grandma-grandpa scam. Now, I haven't read that article, but I do know it is the third most common scam we have as far as phone scams. And what's interesting is we're seeing an increase where they're using caller ID to make it look like they are whoever they want to be. So if they are pretending to be the grandchild, then it will look like the grandchild's caller ID. We're also seeing where they can also record the voice of the grandchild. And it could be from posts online, you know, where they love to put clips of themselves online. So there's voices already, a sampling that they could use. And so with this software program, they're able to speak and sound a lot like the grandchild. Now, what they choose to say is not going to sound like the grandchild. It's just the tone of the voice and the rhythm of the voice will sound like the grandchild's based upon this sampling. So the larger the sampling, the better. So I say this because of the fact that that scam could be anything. I mean, we're talking about the grandma, grandpa, but it could be anything. It could be, you know, your accountant calling, asking for which checking account or what's the checking account number that you want to put your refund into. It could be the doctor's office wanting to confirm your social security number for whatever tests. It could be, you know, a next door neighbor saying that they filled up their car with gas and they left their wallet at home, and they'll pay you back if you'll just give them your credit card number so they can pay for the gas. It could be anything, and that's the thing. We don't know the direction it's going in, and that's why it's important to understand that the technology exists now, and we just have to be aware and watch out for it. Now, the second most common of the phone scams is the computer scam, and they call up and pretend to be Microsoft Windows. There's a problem with your computer. If you don't fix it immediately, you're going to lose everything today. So this is a problem because of the fact that, you know, a lot of us just want our computer to work. We don't need to know how it works. We just want it to work. And for the Microsoft, you know, people think that they get these notices all the time of needing to notify Microsoft. Microsoft is practically calling the phone. And if you know about this, anybody who's dealt with Microsoft knows you're going to wait on the phone for a long time to get help. You are not going to be called by Microsoft. But I will say a lovely retiree from Goldsboro handled this so fun. She got that call. She said, now you're telling me that there's a problem with my Windows and I'm going to lose everything today. And the man on the phone said, yes, ma'am, you're going to lose everything today if you don't act immediately. And she was like, well, I got triple pane Windows. They're supposed to last me for the rest of my life. Now you're telling me that I'm going to lose everything because of my Windows. And so, you know, he was really funny. And he was trying to interrupt her and tell her, no, it's computer. And she was like, there is not a computer in my window. So I love it when people are clever and think of fun ways to make fun of the thieves. I'm just not that clever. I just hang up the phone. I don't have time. But I really do appreciate it when somebody is that good and can come up with it. I will say the next few that we see as far as phone scams, the medical alert, which is we often see with older people, but it could be anything. There's the diabetic supplies. It's all about medical supplies. And they're trying to get a credit card number for the shipping, or they're trying to get a social security number. So it goes both ways. Sweepstakes scams have always been big, and they're still big. They don't change. They keep consistently showing up every year. And it's sweepstakes, prizes, lotteries. It's all across the board. And people fall for them. I even see them on Facebook. I don't know about y'all, but I have, like, my sister-in-law, my sweet hairdresser sister-in-law, who is fabulous. She posted on Facebook this week about Southwest Airlines giving away free because she shared it because she wanted free tickets. You know, giveaway. They're giving away a $200 gift card. There's all of these scams that we see on a regular basis. We don't think anything of them, but our friends and family members can fall for them. And a lot of them, especially if they call you on the phone, tell you that they're bringing a check to your house, they verify your home, they verify a time that they're going to bring you the money, and then they tell you all you got to do is wire the money. Sounds like an obvious one, but for a lot of people who are not as wise to the ways of the world, they know they have to pay their taxes and fees, so they think they have to do it up front. That's not how it's done. Okay, air duct cleaning, jury duty, those have been around a long time. The jury duty one I think is really funny because they call up and tell you there's a warrant for your arrest because you missed jury duty. Well, if you know anything about law enforcement, they don't call before there's a warrant, you know? They just show up when there's a warrant. There's no call and say, heads up, we're on our way. So you have to be aware that that one's a scam. There's Rachel from Card Care Services wanting to take all your debts and put it on her credit card that she's offering. That one's been around a long time. She lives in Jamaica. We know who she is, but she really just wants to take get all your credit card information and take advantage of you. There's also the scammer. They call up and they pretend to be the FBI, and they want to sell you security system because there's increased crime in your neighborhood. The FBI is not selling you security systems. I know these seem pretty obvious, but I really do think that it's important for people to know what they are and what we're hearing the most of, so that other people will know about these scams. And going back to that grandma, grandpa, I will tell you there's been a slight conversion from the grandma, grandpa of the old version. They were saying that they've been arrested, they're in the hospital, the car's broken down, their wallet's been stolen. The new version is that they're kidnapped. And so just in the last couple weeks, that's changed. I will also tell you that in the past, they were doing Western Union, MoneyGram, then they were doing the green dot visas, the prepaid visas, and trying to get people to put money on those. Now, they're quite clever, actually. They are taking the money and having you deposit in a local bank, a Wells Fargo, a Bank of America down the street. They're giving you an account number to deposit. And when you go and deposit that money into that account, it's an account that belongs to Joe Blow, and they've gained access to his account for the day. And so when you deposit, then they immediately withdraw it out. And so they're just basically using Joe Blow's account, and he doesn't even know it. So you gain confidence that you're doing the right thing because you're going to a local bank and you feel like it's more secure. So we're finding that to be a problem. I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to make sure y'all know about the EMV chips. If the EMV chip is the new chip on the credit card. If you have the choice of sticking the card in versus swiping, I really, really want you to put the chip in. It takes longer, but what happens is that chip is sending to the vendor. Let's say it's Lowe's. That chip is communicating a one-time use number to that's typed across the credit card. And that is next to gain access to that credit card. I gain access to the number. I'm getting that one-time use number, not the number on your credit card. However, if I use the swipe, then I'm giving them the number on the front of the credit card. So I think it's important to realize that difference. I also want you to get in the habit when you're going shopping and so forth of covering up, when you pull out your credit card or your checkbook or something, cover over, like put your thumb or your hand over the credit card itself, where the numbers are, because my camera on my phone is pretty good. I can zoom in and get a lot of detail. So I can give somebody 6 or 8 feet distance and take a picture of their credit card and still be able to read the numbers on the front. So you don't know where the technology is going to go next, but at least right now, put your thumb over the number, put your hand over it, like you did in high school when somebody's cheating off your page. You know how you put your arms up and you would prevent somebody from reading your numbers. Do the same thing with your credit card information. Same thing with your hand. When you type in the pins, I want you to cover it with the other hand so that whatever camera's behind you can't read what you're putting in as your PIN number. So those are some tips about what we're seeing and online offers. I know I'm getting close to the end of 30 minutes, so if I'm guessing by now somebody might have a question, and I don't know how y'all like to do this.
It's been great so far. I'll ask my first question, then I'll turn it over to others. Do you know of any kind of a series, that maybe like Instagram, 15 seconds, once a week, where that gives you different schemes and scams that might be entertaining? Because like you went through, several, and I imagine there's, 10 variations of each of these. And maybe if we can kind of make it a little bit entertaining and, just people could go to this series and keep themselves up to date. And then once you hear, like even just hearing the vast array that you covered, it makes me think more cautiously about everything. But
Yes.
I think if you don't hear it, like if you're just reading it, even it all gets mixed in with everything else.
Right.
So hearing it tonight and hearing you explain them has been really insightful. And I didn't know if there's maybe another resource where people are kind of in an entertaining way, just kind of letting people know about a lot of scams.
I don't right now, but I think it's a great idea, and I will look into that one myself because I love Instagram. I'm a visual person, so I like seeing things. It sticks better to me. To me, that's why I do this, is because I think it's helpful to hear the story behind the tip, because it's, telling you what you should do with your password is just not as entertaining as hearing all the crazy passwords that people use.
Yep.
So, but thank you. I appreciate it. That's a great idea.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see Eve.
Hey, Rachel, this is Rhonda. I really appreciate your, presentation. I work for a company who has now a phishing campaign, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with phishing, and the fact that Outlook has the phishing icon so that if you suspect something, you can just click it, goes directly to our security department, who then investigates immediately. But
You have an up-to-date Outlook. I'm a
yes, right. Yes, I think it's 365, so that's right. But the cool thing is that our company actually sends us phishing mail. So
yeah,
and if
financial institutions are doing that. Yes.
Yeah. So if you actually, a lot of major corporations are, because they're hurting. They're really hurting from this. And so it's like if you click on it and you're wrong, something pops up at you, and you're like, oh, most of us are getting email inundated all day long. So you're not really taking the time to read. And like you said, we send attachments all day to each other, links all day. So you click on it, but most of the time I'm able to catch mine. But the latest one that came out was from Microsoft, and so a lot of us do get deliveries. And so this one was like, oh, you have an iPad on the way, and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't order an iPad. And then wait a minute, that address isn't here. That's not my house. What? So then we have people actually calling Microsoft trying to figure out, where's this iPad coming from? Who asked, ordered it, and who sent it? And it was unbelievable. And then that's when this phishing campaign came out, because things were getting kind of crazy. But I didn't know the depths, how far they're going now. The basic stuff that you could pay attention to is no more. It's really innovative the way they're doing it.
Right. No, I think they are, and I think it's helpful to have the phishing test, because until you saw a phishing email, you didn't know what a phishing email looked like. And so the more you see, the more you're used to seeing these.
Exactly.
I will tell you the most recent ones. Let me see if I can find my notes. Oh, so the last 6 months, because I just track this stuff because it's interesting to me. The most recent ones we've seen that have been successful are from your help desk, your IT department, your system administrator, or from your webmaster.
Exactly. Those are the ones that get them every time.
Yes, and they use language like, oh, there's been a new system update. Click here. There's we're doing a survey on improving your mailing experience. Click here, which of course they would never do in my office. Your password expires soon. Click here to update. Your email will expire. Click here to update. Too many unsuccessful attempts to access your email. Your account has been disabled. So we've all been. Yes, I mean, these are totally normal ones.
Exactly.
And then your space has been exceeded, because we have very limited space at the Attorney General's office. So, we have to constantly purge at our office and do back archiving. So a space is been disabled, placed or reactivate your email access in order to receive the messages. Click here. So all of it is trying to get you to click on something. And instead, I think it's better to know how things are done. Make sure they're going to your true help desk, whatever it may be. And I, to be quite honest, I have my IT department email and phone number taped to my computer, because when the computer locks up, I don't have access to that information. Exactly. So I have it taped to the monitor.
Exactly. Same here. Same here. For the same reason.
Exactly. It's smart, but they're getting more and more clever, I find. There are some emails I've seen that I think are tempting. Some of the ones. So I put on the chat for those people who can see it, my email address. Please send me a good one. When you get one that you would fall for, we're not talking about the IRS ones or anything like that, but one that you actually think, that's pretty good. I want you to send it to me because I want to know what's coming down the pipeline. Like I thought a blood drive coordinator one was very good. I thought that was clever because we all have blood drives going around. And so an email from a blood drive coordinator about signing up for blood drive donation was good. And I saw one that was from, what was it? Oh, information about your deceased friend. It's a funeral home is who the and honestly, my parents felt that hard. Does anyone else have questions or thoughts?
So I actually have a question, and it's it might sound kind of dumb, but so on my home computer and my my bank account, I'm kind of shocked that it allows me to not have to enter my password every time I want to go into every time I want to log on. But and is that safe, or should I make it so that how you can save all your passwords or whatever on your desktop, and so you don't have to type in your password all the time for various places where you go? Do you know what I'm talking about?
So you're talking about using the system itself as a password manager, like I think either Google offers. I know Apple does it.
Yeah, it's a Mac. I have an Apple computer.
Right. So let's just say right now I have not seen problems. That doesn't mean I won't. Ask me in a year because we might see problems at that point. But right now I'm not seeing a problem. I do like the idea of password managers, and the plus about them is we are downloading key logging software. That's by accident we end up clicking on something that downloads key logging, and so by having it already saved in a password manager type system, then you're not having to type it again, which means that it's not being logged into the key logging software, if that makes sense. So in that way, I really do like not having to do that. And then I see something from Kevin. Oh, funny videos about network security. Nice. So anyway, but I let's put it this way. I have used those. I know people who are IT professionals who've used those. So at this point, I don't see a problem. I'll be honest. I was looking at the security breaches and how a lot of them occurred, and I think it's pretty fascinating. There was several of them. Office of Personnel Management. You remember that big breach that occurred last year? That one occurred because somebody stole the password for a contractor. And then Anthem, they were able to get an administrator's password, and they did it. It's called a watering hole attack. Basically, they went to a place where these administrators were known to visit websites and put a sort of a web to catch them, so that they were able to get passwords. So, they just sat out there on the internet waiting for them to come and click on it, which I thought was quite clever of a lot of these people. And I'll be honest, there's a guy, an engineer for a company called it's called Hacking Team, which they sell hacking materials. Just seems weird. But anyway, the engineer, they were hacked, and it's because the engineer used password as his password. So this is where we're seeing passwords are key. And so changing them even if they're saved, like what you're talking about, I think is incredibly important, and making sure that your software is up to date.
So just another really quick question. Again, this might sound kind of dumb, but so, part of me feels like, well, nobody wants my stuff. They don't care anything about my, my business or my money, or, because there's not, you know what I mean? So do everyday people, though, we still have something to worry about because they're random and they don't care what they're hacking or where they're hacking, and they just assume go for, they'll go for whatever they can go for? Is that the idea? Or do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, they are going after whomever they can go after. That's the short and sweet of it. I mean, I have victims that are in bankruptcy. I have victims that they stole the money that the government gave them to live on. So they don't have a lot, but they had enough. If you got $500, or at least at the beginning of the month you have $500, then you have something they want.
Wow. And
so you don't have to be rich. Now, for some of these online romance ones, they like to catch a big fish, but they'll be happy with anybody. So, we're all vulnerable. And that's
Carolyn.
Yeah.
Somebody. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were there. Just real quick about the online romance stuff. Mm-hmm. We had someone who was on Facebook and apparently met somebody. Mm-hmm. And then they did say that, this person, is rich or whatever, but that he is oral surgeon working for the UN, mm-hmm. and he was in Baghdad. And so the crazy thing to me was they were, wanting to come and see the family, and they were coming in, but it was just all so fast and so strange. And we all just kept telling the person it's a scam, but they're like, it can't be a scam because they didn't ask for any money. So I was like, well, maybe they don't have enough, you're not in enough for them to ask. I don't know. But the last thing was the person was supposed to be coming to meet all of the family, and
there was an accident, just lost their wallet, or they were wrecked or something.
They didn't say that yet. All they kept saying was that they're at the airport, and the day the person was calling us to try to help get some information, no one asked for any money. They just asked for information. We did an intervention. It was like 10 of us just jumped on them and said, cut this person off. Do not talk to them. But in the back of our minds, it's like, well, there's no money involved, but some kind of way, this just doesn't sound right. And so they cut them out, we hope, but because there was no money, we kept saying scam, but they kept saying there's no money. They didn't ask me for any money. And I'm like,
usually what happens is when they're on the way to the airport or at the airport, there's something bad happens.
Okay. So he was at the airport that day, and all of us were supposed to be calling and seeing about this and that. In some kind of way, we all were like, what is this? Who is this? And why are we doing, and then it was like, we think this is a scam. And so you're right that maybe the next step would have been money, some kind of money we had to come up with to help them, I guess. I don't know.
They'll give very nice gifts if they think they've got somebody on the hook. They'll send them flowers. They'll do, because they're wooing for big money. So they'll send $100 worth of investment to get somebody to give several thousand.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. I know we're at the end of the time, so I don't know if what needs to happen at this, but you've got my email address. Y'all are welcome to ask me questions. I'll stay on here a little bit longer, but I know some of you may need to wrap it up.
Well, let's go ahead and ask Rhonda if you would be willing to lead us in the Rotary 4-way test. And Carolyn, thank you so much. This has been great. I would love to. I have an idea, just because I did remember my friend Eric did a few videos that someone paid him to do on network security, but I think maybe if we could, have some dialogue maybe through email, you could give me maybe your long extended list, and maybe we could figure something out that would be, you could use from your office to maybe reach a wider group of people with some.
I would love it.
Okay, great. Well, Rhonda, can you lead us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Of the things we think, say, or do, I'm sorry, I'm just repeating it now. So that's it.
But that's the Rotary four-way test.
That's it. You're welcome.
I wanted to thank Caroline again so much for this. This was great information with a great presentation. And everyone, thank you for your involvement. And if you do have a couple minutes and you want to stay on the line, everyone feel free. And when the chatter dies down, we will close it officially. But thanks for coming, everyone.